Valley Talk on News Talk 1580 KGAL.
And a very good morning. It is Election Day, and we will know in 24, 48 hours, I guess, who the next president of the United States will be.
No, now, the provisional ballots in Ohio, they wait 10 days to count those.
Really?
So if Ohio is that close, it could be 10 days from now before we know. Wasn't the other time, what was it, 2000, that it was Bush and Kerry, and they had the hanging chads, and it went on for 27 days, I think that was. That was awful.
Yeah, it was. Hey, welcome to Valley Talk. John Gibson with me in the studio today. You just heard from Steve Druckenmiller, the Linn County Clerk. We have about a 5-minute conversation that we did about an hour ago with Steve. We'll be talking to him here in just a moment. Also going to be talking, yesterday we had a chance to talk to Patrick O'Connor, who is a labor economist with the Oregon Department of Employment, about the workforce numbers. We talk about employment rates and so on and so forth. We'll be having that second half of the show. And then the very, very final part of the program, we'll be talking with John Gibson about his take on the elections, the economy, storms, all things financial and otherwise. So, John, thanks for coming in and being part of the show today.
Hey, thank you, Charlie. I appreciate being here.
As always, and a very big thank you to our good friends at Quiznos. Quiznos Taste on Us, continuing to give away those $10 gift certificates. I had lunch at Quiznos yesterday. I had a cold cut sandwich. Really, really good. I love eating there. Thanks to Dale and the crew. You can have one of those sandwiches as well. In fact, we'll give you a $10 gift certificate if you submit an email to me with Quiznos Taste on Us on the subject line, or call KGAL at 451-KGAL. or 926 KGAL, and we'll put your name in the drawing. At the end of the show, we'll draw a name out and, maybe give you a $10 gift certificate for Quiznos Taste on Us. Thanks for being a KGAL Valley Talk sponsor. John, the election, do you think it's going to be close?
Well, if you believe people like Dick Morris, who say that the polls are based on the turnout of 2008, and that won't be the case this time, then it should be Romney pretty easily. I don't hear anyone saying there's going to be a blowout for Obama, but that it could be close and that he could take Ohio and Pennsylvania, then he's reelected. So Pennsylvania is trending towards Romney, and if you correct the polls and use 2004 averages, then you actually have Romney up by about 5 points. So
CNN ran a poll that says it's 49%, so it's split right in the middle. I sure hope we don't run into a hanging chad issue, and I hope it doesn't dissolve into the situation or evolve into a situation where it's a week before we know the winner.
Yeah, well, no one wants that. The market certainly doesn't want that. The market's up 150 points today just based on some economic news, and I think the fact that everyone's relieved that all of this is over. I've talked to my friends in Colorado, which is a swing state, and they say things like they just put on TV programs between the campaign ads, it seems. That's all we see is campaign ads. So I think that there's a collective sigh of relief of it being over. But I think the stock market is anticipating a Romney victory.
Okay, everybody who listens to this show knows the political persuasions of you and I, and we're both hoping that Romney wins. But obviously, we present both sides of the issue here on KGAL and on Valley Talk. It's very, very interesting. What I hope is that one of the problems, if it's just if it wins by a whisker, for which whoever wins, there's always going to be kind of a, did he really win? Or, he just won by just a shade. I'm hoping that it's not a whisker-thin margin for either man, that there's some kind of substantial vote for either man.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And the way to get away with that is to stop watching ABC News, CBS News, NBC News. Start watching Fox Business News, okay? It's mostly economists that they have on, and they talk about the ramifications of policy versus talking points. I don't want to hear any more talking points. I'm full of them. I hate Fox the regular Fox shows like Sean Hannity, because they do this fair and balanced crap, and they have these Democrats on, and all they do is spout their talking points. And so what I wind up doing is I change the channel when some liberal person is just wasting time on the air, and I go to a different news show, and then I miss the guy I want to see when I come back to the show, because I don't want to hear what some liberal moron has to say. I've heard it. It's just more of the same. So it's very frustrating. So if you want real news, go to Fox Business News, okay? Not Fox News. And they have economists, and you won't be able to tell the political persuasion of the person that they're talking to most of the time. That's who I want to get my news from.
Okay. Let's find out what's going on in as the people are going to the polls here in Linn County. And on Valley Talk right now, we have Steve Druckenmiller, County Clerk for Linn County. Steve, thank you for being with us on Valley Talk today. I know you're very busy today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
What is the turnout looking like so far? I know Oregon is vote by mail, and we have some people probably coming to the polls as well.
We have a great turnout. We have people coming to the office right now updating their registrations, and they're able to vote here. And our turnout is above 66% right now. And that's a great turnout. By the end of the day, we'll certainly be up in the mid to high 80s.
Really? How does that compare with other presidential elections?
Oh, it's somewhat on par, but it's running about 2-3 percentage points ahead of 4 years ago when we had an 83% turnout. And, that can change just depending on how the ballots are coming in. But it's very strong right now. People are enthusiastic, and we invite people to, if they haven't voted, they need to update their registration. They come down here. Of course, it's too late to register if you haven't been registered previously, but and they can vote right here in the office.
What questions have people been asking?
Every election is
Everything.
wonderful. you get questions seriously about why is somebody on my ballot, why isn't somebody on my ballot. That's always the big one, because they get the voters pamphlet, and the voters pamphlet would have everybody who's on all the ballots in the county. And they go to vote their ballot, and they can't find that name, and they want to know why, and we get a lot of those questions.
Now, vote by mail, explain that a little bit to us. When do you start counting the vote by mail? Have you actually started handling those vote by mail ballots that have been coming in?
Yes, we start processing them a week before the election so that we can have results by 8 o'clock. And, vote by mail started here in Linn County, and we're very proud of that. It's a system that the rest of the country, with the problems they're having, we don't have today. We don't have long lines of people. We don't have fear of drive-by shootings or anything else. Linn County is orderly, and we're accurate, and it's a great system.
What about the security of vote by mail? You believe it's a secure way to vote?
It is far more secure than the polling places, and anybody who has a concern about that because of some of the things in the news recently, they're invited to come down and watch the system. They can come down today, and we'll let them come. They can watch what happens. But in Linn County, we have cameras in every room where a ballot can possibly be. Nobody is ever alone with a ballot. We have all sorts of security during the count process, from the time the ballots start coming in, from motion detectors in every room to door alarms. We are very secure, and the Linn County Board of Commissioners, and particularly Mr. Nyquist, has had a lot to do with that.
Okay. So you've actually started counting the vote by mail ballots?
Yes, we have. And again, people are invited to come down and watch how it works.
How soon do you expect to have numbers from Linn County tonight?
A few minutes after 8 o'clock.
And when do you think we'll have the final numbers from Linn County?
Well, that's always exciting. It can be any time from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the morning. And in addition to that, even after the election with vote by mail, for example, when people have sent their ballots in unsigned, we contact them. Or if their signatures don't match, we contact them and let them know, and they have up to 10 days after the election to clarify that, and we can then still count their ballot.
In this election, is there anything that's been a surprise to you or unusual?
We've had such a wonderful, steady turnout, beginning with early returns, that it's made processing the ballots really economical, and it adds to the efficiency of that, so we're spending less tax dollars. But people voted early, and I did not expect that.
A lot of passion in this election. There doesn't seem to be a lot of fence setters. You either love Obama or Romney, and has that spilled over into the voting process in any way?
I think that people are passionate. I mean, even those who conduct elections are passionate about elections themselves. But in Oregon, we have such a wonderful history of clean elections, of people who appreciate an orderly process that even though we have strong feelings, we don't see what other states see in some of the excesses. So it's exciting to be here.
Okay. Steve Druckenmiller, Linn County Clerk, we thank you for being with us on Valley Talk today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Vote by mail. John, what do you think?
Well, it really works good, especially for older folks. That I do Meals on Wheels, and so I see a lot of older folks that wouldn't be able to drive to the polls.
Yeah.
So for that, I think it's wonderful. But personally, there's just something that I would feel at a polling booth. I just felt it was such great Americanism, and you would stand in line and you would talk to your neighbors, and then a week later, you would see the guy driving down there, and this is in Denver,
Okay.
but you'd see the guy driving down there and you'd wave, and it was like, hey, I kind of know you, So I miss that part of the Americana,
It was democracy at its best, where you go to the polling place and cast your ballot. As a reporter, it's kind of nice to have the returns there at 8 o'clock instead of having them trickle in all evening.
Mm-hmm.
So vote by mail almost makes it somewhat anticlimactic, because 8 o'clock you've got a big, if the machinery is working okay, you've got, instant numbers, and you pretty much have it's over almost.
And there's all sorts of races. And I want to step back to last week, because I did not like the interview that we had with Ken Toom. I thought that it was a hit piece, gotcha questions. Anytime you start a question off with, correct me if I'm wrong, you're generally wrong. So I didn't appreciate the way that Mr. Toom was treated. That's just my own personal opinion. I like both Paul Aziz. Paul teaches classes at Lynn Benton. I've taken computer classes from him to learn basically computer classes for dummies, but it got me going. I learned how to defrag my computer. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Either man would be perfect, but I would like to have Mr. Toom to have more respect and to be able to reflect on the progress that Lebanon has made. Because I moved here in 1978 up in the valley, and I would drive through Lebanon to go to ski at Hoodoo, and it was a ghost town. And thanks to Mr. Toom, Mr. Elliott, lots of other people, Rebecca Grizzle, there's a lot of people in Lebanon that worked hard to get us to where we are. And I just thought that was disrespectful. So that aside.
All right, we disagree on that. We can agree to disagree.
That's
I think
cool.
Ken Toom had an opportunity to talk about his accomplishments, and in fact, we let him read his statement in the beginning of the show about his accomplishments. We talked about that. But when we question a candidate on the show, we always say, okay, here are what the opposition is saying. Here are what some of your critics are saying. And instead of just making a yes piece for the particular candidate on the show, we say, here are what your opponents are saying. How do you respond to that? And we try to treat every candidate fairly.
And I understand that, but when he answered the question about the cop, and I don't know why the cop is fired, but he said the attorneys, this was done through the attorneys, I can't say anything, and then you waste airtime by coming back to that again and trying to get him to answer it again. It's like, move on. I mean, there's so many other topics to talk about. Don't, that's just putting him in a spot where he can't respond. And to me, that's just not fair. It's like, that, the reporter knows the question that he's going to ask, well in advance. The person on the other seat has a moment to respond. And, it just seemed So
right.
Anyways.
Well, we agree to disagree on that one.
Good.
So next item on the show, we're going to be talking about unemployment rates and Oregon's job picture with the Oregon labor market economist Patrick O'Connor here on Valley Talk, and we'll be right back.
Many people worry they don't have what it takes to manage their own investments. And Edward Jones, your financial advisor, works with you every step of the way. making sure you understand all of your options and the benefits of every transaction. Edward Jones has only one business, providing brokerage services to individuals like you. See why they've been growing year after year. Stop by your Edward Jones office at 56 East Airport in Lebanon. Edward Jones, members SIPC.
Fans, start here. Stop in any OSU Beaver store for your chance to win Civil War tickets. Serving OSU and Beaver Nation for nearly a century, we've got the world's best selection for you to gear up this football season. Hurry in. This contest ends November 16th. Visit on campus or in downtown Portland on the corner of 6th and Alder, or at Kaiser Station just off I-5 exit 260, or online at OSUBeaverstore.com. Sign up to win Civil War tickets today. Go Beavs!
December 31st is coming, and if you have dental insurance, please don't lose your benefits with the coming of another year. Dr. Dennis Clark sees many of his patients miss out on important treatments, so now is the time to schedule an appointment by calling 451-1440. Dr. Clark has been gently caring for Mid-Valley patients for over 25 years, and whether you have dental insurance or not, now is the time to make an appointment before the holiday season is booked.
Hello, this is Dr. Dennis Clark. We do offer a full range of services: smile makeovers, oral surgery, and Invisalign wireless braces.
In addition, if you suffer from bleeding gums, loose teeth, or bad breath, Dr. Clark can help with gently applied laser light. His skillful use of laser periodontal therapy will dramatically help as you notice the healing of bleeding gums, loose teeth tightening, and the bone growing back. For a free consultation about the no-cut, no-sew, no-fear solution for infected gums, call the Laser Dentist. In Lebanon, call 451-1440 or toll free at 866-351-5453.
We are bound to others, past and present, and by each crime and every kindness, we birth our future.
Cloud Atlas, now showing at Carmike 12.
Yesterday, I would never have done what I did today.
Cloud Atlas, now showing at Carmike 12.
I believe there is another world waiting for us, a better world. I won't let you go.
Cloud Atlas, rated R, in theaters and IMAX, October 26th.
My sister did good. Hunter.
She killed her own sister. Hey, they've never found her or him.
Now showing at Carmike 12.
It's the new kid from across the street. I've never met his mom. Did you hear that? Can you tell me who you were talking to? Nobody.
Now showing at Carmike 12.
Looks like a triangle with a circle in it.
It says the ritual requires sacrifice. Hello?
Paranormal Activity 4, rated R, in theaters October 19th.
Home improvement will never be the same once you've heard The Money Pit. Saturday mornings on Smart Talk 1580.
Hey, I'm Dave Adams. Welcome once again to Valley Talk. And on this segment of the show, we're going to be talking about the unemployment rate jobs numbers. Are we getting more jobs in Oregon, fewer numbers? Exactly what is this unemployment rate? What exactly are these numbers telling us? Because sometimes you can make these numbers say just about anything you want. So we have in the studio today Patrick O'Connor, who is a regional economist with the Oregon Employment Department, WorkSource Oregon, and he serves Linn, Benton, Polk, and Yamhill counties. Patrick O'Connor, thank you for being with us on Valley Talk today.
Thank you, Dave. Nice to be here.
So let's talk about job growth, or the number of jobs in the Mid-Willamette Valley here. What are we seeing as we look at total number of jobs? Are we seeing more jobs created, jobs going away? What's going on?
Well, I think for our part of the state, I don't know if it sounds like good news, but I think the best that we can say for the Mid-Valley as a whole is that hopefully we've reached the trough. Hopefully we've bottomed out. The trend that we saw obviously was a lot of job loss in 2000, late part of 2008, 2009, and into 2010. We've seen some private sector growth over the past 12 to 18 months, but last school year we saw a lot of job loss within the public sector, K through 12, local government jobs, and basically that really kind of offset or negated any gains that we saw in the private sector. So it was a fairly flat time. Now this year, I don't think we're expecting to see nearly as much, and hopefully not any job loss in the public sector. So hopefully now these private gains will start changing direction, that we'll start seeing some growth. But really we've struggled in our part of the state, in particular Linn County, to add jobs. A lot of the statewide growth that we've seen so far has really been concentrated in the Portland metro area.
In what area, what sector of the economy?
Some bouncing back of manufacturing. Healthcare is certainly the one that's continued to grow throughout it. Even that has shown some slowing and some signs of trying to get control on labor costs. So even that is slow. That's really the only one that hasn't been touched. Obviously, initially, construction and manufacturing took huge hits, and the Mid-Valley was no exception of that. Whether we're talking about the RV industry down in Linn County, wood products, metal manufacturing here in the Mid-Valley. So those were certainly the hardest hit ones, and we still haven't seen a whole lot of bounce back from those ones that were hard hit. Eventually, it came through and it hit retail and kind of other consumer spending sorts of industries. Those, I think, we've seen some modest growth, but as I say, for our part of the state, job growth has really been fairly scarce and modest. So. The manufacturing we kind of stabilized for a while, but then recently we've seen kind of a whole nother wave of layoffs hit in Benton County's manufacturing and some recent layoffs in Linn County as well.
One of the things that can be misleading for the unemployment rate is if a person is on the unemployment rolls too long, they essentially drop off. And so the unemployment rate, the official unemployment rate, is somewhat inaccurate as far as describing the overall employment situation, I think. Don't you agree?
Well, I think one of the major points of confusion normally, Dave, is that people confuse people receiving unemployment insurance with how we get the unemployment rate. And now, the truth being said, someone who is gathering an unemployment check should pretty much follow our definition of unemployed, although not necessarily, but it really is based on a separate survey that has nothing to do with whether one is gathering unemployment or not, and that's something that definitely leads to confusion, because there's certain segments of the population or certain industries such as agriculture. They really don't participate in our unemployment insurance program overall. Now, if someone loses their job there or quits, in our survey, we don't care if they're gathering an unemployment check or not. We would count them as unemployed. So I think that's probably where a lot of confusion leads. And in that regard, as you say, if someone has gone through their 26 weeks of unemployment, in our survey, that wouldn't matter. They obviously it would matter to them in their life because they're not getting the money anymore. Right. But from our survey, that doesn't matter. The big thing that does matter in our survey is that someone needs to have been actively seeking work in the past 4 weeks to drop out, and that is how some people, what we term discouraged workers, someone who really would like a job but just doesn't think there's anything out there. If someone's not actively out there seeking work, that's when they can get pulled out of the labor force, and even though someone really does want a job, they wouldn't be counted as unemployed. They wouldn't be counted as anything. They wouldn't be counted as part of the labor force.
So in that aspect, the unemployment rate is somewhat inaccurate. In other words, there are people that are not actively looking for work that need a job.
Sure.
And they've just given up because they're so discouraged.
Exactly.
So they're not reflected in the unemployment rate, and so the unemployment rate in some instances should be higher.
It is, and I think the logic behind that, of course, would be if we just counted everyone who doesn't have a job as being unemployed, is someone who's retired and wants to be retired, are they unemployed? Well, we'd count them as retired, and that they shouldn't be as part of it. So that's, I think that's the logic between having some sort of gauge that someone needs to have been.
But there's no real accurate way to get a gauge. In other words, there's no real way to do a litmus test and say, do you want a job? I know you're discouraged, but if somebody walked up and gave you a job today, would you take it?
Right.
And they really need it. Right now, there's really no way to include those in any kind of data.
Well, that's what the survey is designed to do. It's one of the questions. The survey, it's a household survey in Oregon. It's roughly 1,000 households that are asked each month, and the question would be, have you actively looked for work, contacted an employer in the past 4 weeks? Yes, no. And that if the answer is no, then obviously they're going to put someone in the not in the labor force column. I do think, as you say, to act like the unemployment rate is an end-all, be-all measure is definitely, I would agree that it's not the end-all, be-all, because there's aspects of it. We have some expanded measurements of it that include some of these discouraged workers and also people who have maybe had their hours cut back to part-time that want to be full-time workers. Those numbers, especially through this recession, have been much larger, where numbers have been closer to 17, 18% of the of people who are, in essence, underemployed, either flat out not working or getting less work, less hours worked than they would want to. And so I would agree there's not just one final number that explains it all.
One of the things I like to work at is total number of jobs in a given county, like Linn, Benton, so on and so forth. So in that regard, if we look at total number of jobs available, people getting a paycheck, people working today,
right?
What has the total number of jobs picture look like in these two counties? Flat?
Well, my hope is one gauge that we look at. It's a little dated, where the end of 2011 would be the most current data that we have, but we, using administrative data, are able to look at what we call new hires, basically how many people that haven't worked for a firm before are coming in and being hired. Those numbers are still significantly lower than where we would have been pre-recession. For instance, this morning I did just a quick comparison, and compared to into 2011 to where we were in 2007 prior to the recession, hiring is still down statewide probably about 27% in terms of what we're seeing. And in a county like Linn County, where we're really still hurting in terms of generating jobs, that number's down 39% from where we would have been prior to the recession. So in that regard, I mean, why are we still seeing higher unemployment rates? Just not enough hiring overall is certainly a contributing factor to that. As we've seen the recession, most of the layoffs really took place there in that late 2008 and 2009 period. But since that point, it's just really been very slow to see things go the other way. And as we mentioned earlier, some continued losses that came through at local government that continued to pull the employment growth downward. So I think that's certainly one of the challenges. And as I say, so far a lot of what we say employment growth statewide has really been concentrated in Portland, and that's not unique. That's not a unique Oregon story. Really, nationally, the 40 largest metro areas or so, that's really where a lot of the job growth that the U.S. has seen so far coming back from this recession has been. So we're obviously not thrilled about that here in the Mid-Valley, but that story isn't totally unique to us.
Why is that? Is that because that's where the manufacturing already is? They already have the infrastructure in place. That's where the easiest places to spin up when things, when they start putting fuel in the machinery, so to speak. In other words, job growth starts happening. It starts happening where there are already infrastructure in place.
Right. I think that's, the overall story, of course, of our economy over the past three decades has been increasingly that the job growth has been in metro areas, and the bouncing back, it's been that. A lot of it I typically see as your industry structure has a whole lot to do with what goes on. I mean, Linn County here for a good example, we're strongly based in manufacturing, wood products and metal manufacturing to be two of them. There's pluses. One of the big pluses are they're good paying jobs, and in times when an economy is growing, they provide good paying jobs for the residents of the area. But if there's a downside to it, when you hit a recession, that wood products, things like that, it tends to get hit hard. Obviously, one with as much housing as we have here. So. In that regard, I could have told you from the offset when we saw we were having this housing problem that Linn County would get hurt just due to our industry structure, and I think that's probably our biggest difference when you look at what drives smaller metro areas and more rural areas, their industry structure is going to be different than what a metro area would see, and what the big drivers are. Certainly in our area, why is Portland doing well? Well, their high-tech manufacturing, they're a lot more centered on that, and that's been doing obviously much better than the wood products manufacturing here in recent years.
More questions with Patrick O'Connor, regional economist for Oregon Employment Department, serving Linn, Benton, Polk, Yamhill. And is there another county in there that you serve?
Marion.
Marion County, yep. Okay. We will continue with Patrick on Valley Talk here in just a moment.
The Osgood File, sponsored in part by Auto Owners Insurance, the no-problem people. Visit AutoOwners.com. This is Charles Osgood. It's understandable that Americans should be engrossed with today's election. It's about us, of, by, and for us. But you know where else people, especially young people, find it absolutely fascinating? The People's Republic of China.
We just want to know, what's happening on the other side of the world. We are now living in the realm of social media. It's much easier to get all such information compared to the past.
University student Wang Han-yi, speaking with our CBS News colleague Bill Whitaker in Beijing.
We met with Wang and two other self-proclaimed political junkies, John Wu, a student, and Liu Zhenyang, a journalist.
American politics? Why?
American election is open, energetic.
Unlike Chinese politics, as you'll hear after this. In this moment, who has your back? Do you know the name of your insurance agent? Does your agent know your name? Or would you call a 1-800 number that connects you with who? Another state? Another country? Get a local, independent insurance agent with Auto Owners Insurance. Someone you can call when bad stuff happens to your car, home, or business. In this moment, get an agent who will protect you in that moment. Auto Owners Insurance, the no-problem people.
In Martinsville, call BB&T Insurance Services of Martinsville at 276-666-3600.
Since I've been wearing glasses with KGAL no-glare lenses, the difference in my vision is remarkable. I'm really seeing better. Now, when I'm playing with my grandkids, even with the inevitable smudges, I've got crystal clear vision. When I'm looking at those three faces, it's clearly true. They are beautiful. For no-glare lenses with great scratch and smudge, water, dust, and dirt resistance, ask your eye care professional for KGAL no-glare lenses. That's CRIZAL. Live life in the clear. The day after tomorrow, says Bill Whitaker.
2 days after the U.S. picks a president, China picks new rulers by a Communist Party process that's both secretive and Byzantine.
From his apartment in northern China, a 29-year-old English teacher, Wan Jin, has been downloading and translating American campaign speeches and debates for his online followers.
They want to look with their own eyes and listen with their own ears and make their own judgment.
They don't like that China comes in for so much criticism.
On day one, I will label China a currency manipulator.
We are going to insist that China plays by the same rules as everybody else.
The U.S. is always running the fastest in the world, and he suddenly finds that, China is behind me, and he's catching up and running faster and faster.
But they do like that Americans get to challenge and choose their leaders.
They can openly question and discuss the political problems.
Imagine the Osgood File. This is Charles Osgood on the CBS Radio Network.
Mom, what if something happens to Dad?
Why would something happen to Dad?
Tom's dad died, and he wasn't even sick. Now they have to move.
Life's unpredictable, and when you put off things like life insurance, you can get caught off guard. Fidelity Life makes protecting your family affordable, even in today's economy. Less than $15 a month buys a healthy 40-year-old a $250,000 term life insurance policy. We just assess your needs, give you our best quote and our competitors, and then you choose. We work directly with the nation's top carriers to find the policy that's right for you. And because we give you the best quotes, you can save up to 70%. Call 1-800-621-8600 for your free quote and 30-day money-back guarantee. Call 1-800-621-8600. That's 1-800-621-8600. Or visit FidelityLife.com. Fidelity Life Association is licensed in all states and the District of Columbia, except for Wyoming and New York. Not all products available in all states. Applications and rates are subject to underwriting approval.
Only at Power Honda in Albany can you buy a new 2012 Honda Civic LX Automatic for $18,275 and pay 0 interest for 60 months. That's right, $13.20 off MSRP and 0% financing. No interest and a huge discount off any new Honda Civic LX in stock? It's not too good to be true. It's a Power Honda deal on Highway 20 east of I-5, your Honda Superstore.
LX Civic Automatic MSRP $19,525. Financing is on approved credit and through American Honda Finance. 0% is a dealer rate buy-down combination offer. Make your best deal.
Science and Common Sense. Dr. Bill Wattenberg will surprise you Sunday nights live on Smart Talk 1580.
Talking to Patrick O'Connor, regional economist with Oregon Employment Department, serving Linn, Benton, Polk, Yamhill, and Marion counties. Patrick, one of the things that we're hearing is that a lot of businesses are waiting until the election. They're waiting for the other shoe to fall. They're waiting to see whether it's going to be Obama or Mitt Romney and kind of get an idea about the general philosophy that will kind of guide the government going forward. They're waiting for that before they really start making a move, hopefully in job creation. Is that what you're hearing?
You know, I don't know. I'm hopeful that whatever happens, I guess hopefully that will drive hiring. Maybe it's just the business owners I know are kind of more small business owners, where I think just number of customers coming in the door tends to push their hiring practices more than
who's in the White House.
Who's in the White House? What the future of healthcare or tax rates are. I mean that and maybe when you get to larger companies that is the case. That those things are weighed more carefully. I think that's certainly a debate within the economics community. There's been a lot put on, kind of alluding to this, confidence, whether it's confidence in the government, confidence in the economy. How much does that drive decisions of businesses versus how many job orders do you have? How much business, demand, if you will, for your things? How much is that going to drive your hiring? I imagine both obviously factor into decisions, and I think that probably that discussion among economists is which is the more important in doing it. I'm sure both factor in, but hopefully whatever uncertainty is out there from elections, hopefully it leads to better job growth. We have certainly nationally and even statewide been seeing some increased, some better job growth recently, but as what we've been talking about for the Mid-Valley here, we've kind of lagged behind by and large. Benton County would be an exception. They're certainly doing better. A lot of that has to do with the presence of Oregon State, the high student enrollment numbers. That certainly helps them, even though they've had layoffs in manufacturing, losses in construction. All that money that comes in from students certainly is a stabilizing factor for their economy.
Have we seen more businesses go towards hiring part-time instead of full-time employees because they're concerned about health insurance costs and the benefit packages? They're really struggling to make it balance at the end of the month. More of a move. I know some of the big box stores are moving really towards part-time and not full-time, and that creates a problem for people that need family wage jobs.
Absolutely. I think that's been initially with the recession, it was something that a large number of businesses did as some way to retain employees rather than absolutely having to cut people, scaling back. Well, okay, instead of 40 hours a week, you're getting 30 hours a week, but we're not going to lay off folks. So I think a combination, as you mentioned, for some companies, it certainly has to do with benefits kicking in for full-time employees that don't kick in for part-time employees. I'm sure is a motivation. As I say, for other employers, it was a motivation to try to retain employees and minimize layoffs. The one thing, maybe a concern on my part about when you have a bunch of part-time workers, is that even as we see increased economic activity and growth within the economy, it may be a while before you'd actually see a business have to move as far as hiring more people, because they kind of have some unrealized labor on their hand. That they'd have workers that would want to get up to full-time employment again before they'd have to go out and hiring new bodies. So that's certainly one, I guess, the economist's concern, from having larger shares of people working part-time, and certainly more people working part-time than would be ideal, probably from their perspective, too.
They have internal manpower reserves that they can draw.
Exactly.
They'll have to exhaust those before they want to go out and commit to hiring new people.
Well, exactly. So we could say not as much hiring, unemployment staying sticky, even though we see economic growth in terms of dollars being spent.
What are you seeing as far as one of the things that you do as you write to labor trends for the workplace, WorkSource Oregon and the Oregon Employment Department? You try to look as much as you can into the future and best guess, predict, prognosticate what you perceive is going to happen. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think is going to happen as far as the economy? Growth, flat?
I think for short-term growth, we look a lot to the Office of Economic Analysis in Salem, who prepares the forecast for the legislature, both the revenue forecast, and there's employment built within that too. And they're certainly calling for they've seen growth accelerate here. Still not terrific, but certainly much better than what it had been 2010, 2011. So we've seen it accelerate. Bad for the Mid-Valley in terms of a lot of that has been the Portland area, but overall we are seeing continued growth. In terms of their current forecast, they believe that our state will hit our pre-recession level, which would have been right at the beginning of 2008. That at this point, it's going to take us till probably about the middle of 2015 before we get our employment level back to where we were in 2008 before we kind of stepped off the cliff, so to speak. That number's been a bit of a moving target. Slow but steady growth. I mean, I think that office, as well as most economists, it's tough to see where any huge growth would be coming right away. I mean,
are we seeing any growth in the green sector or high-tech sector?
High tech obviously has been doing okay at the numbers. Green sector, that's not one that we, I guess, track just in and of itself. Obviously, several years ago we saw a lot of wind farms going up. Not so much in our area, more up in the Columbia Gorge. Mm-hmm. I think that has slowed to a large extent. So that's one that, once again, you even if there is growth, I'm not. I think one challenge with our overall economy is generating large numbers of jobs, and one challenge I think within manufacturing, thinking of something like solar panels or something like that. Even if you do get them located, and they are good jobs, it's not going to be the kind of thing that's employing thousands of people. We've in our manufacturing with mechanization and automation.
Patrick O'Connor is the labor economist for the state of Oregon, and one of them is serving here in the Mid-Willamette Valley. We thank him for being with us on Valley Talk today. One of the questions I had for Patrick, John Gibson with me in the studio right now, is the unemployment rate. I know as a reporter, reporting the unemployment rate has always been tricky because it's a numbers game. You can make the unemployment rate is one of those stories that you can make the numbers essentially say whatever you want them to say.
Well, if you go back to Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton, during that timeline, there were 6 segments to the unemployment figure. Now they just use 3. So they've quit counting the people who just quit looking for work. They quit counting the people who are underemployed, who want a full-time job. And I can't remember the third one that they quit counting. But if you add those other 3 back in, we're really at 14.6% unemployment.
So whenever you hear the unemployment rate number, it's always much lower than it really should be. Right.
If you want to compare unemployment to the era of Jimmy Carter or Ronald Reagan or Bill Clinton, I don't know if it was Bush or Obama's administration that changed it, but one of those two did.
Okay. More thoughts with John Gibson as we think about today is Election Day, Election 2012. 2012, we are going to the polls today to elect a president for the United States for the next 4 years. Is it going to be a return of Barack Obama, or will it be the Mitt Romney administration? We'll know here in a day or two, hopefully a day sooner than later. I would like to get the decision over quickly.
Are we going to a break, or do I have time for a quick story?
We're going to a break.
Okay.
We'll be right back here on Valley Talk in just a second.
When you look out across Willamette Valley, you'll see plenty of banking choices. But we're here to give you an option that's pretty unique, like no other in fact. Hi, I'm Dave Wood, President and CEO of Willamette Community Bank. We provide an alternative to large national and regional banks by offering customized financial services and local decision-making to benefit local people, local families, and local businesses. How many banks can say that? Willamette Community Bank, service like no other, we promise. Member FDIC.
Creating a 211 resource phone line for families to get the help they need. Helping provide transportation and health checks for seniors. Supporting after-school programs for children at the Boys and Girls Clubs. Hello, my name is Mike Patterson, Vice President of Rhodes Warden Insurance Agency. I support the United Way because I believe they are making a difference right here in the community where I work and live. Please join me in supporting the United Way of Linn County. Give, advocate, volunteer, live united.
The next performance of the Corvallis OSU Symphony Orchestra is Sunday, November 18th, 3 o'clock at the LaSalle Stewart Center. The orchestra, under the direction of Marlon Carlson, will perform works by Chopin, Ravel, and Debussy. Featured are Chopin's Piano Concerto No. 2 with Alexander Tutanov on piano, considered to be one of the former Soviet Union's most talented artists. Also, the orchestra will perform Debussy's Nocturnes and Ravel's Daphne and Chloe Part 2. Advance tickets are available at Grace Winds Music and Grassroots Books and Music in Corvallis. And for your convenience, tickets are also available online at cosusymphony.org. That's cosusymphony.org. Find information there how K through 8 and high school and college students can be admitted for free. Bring a friend, bring the family. Sunday afternoon, November 18th, 3 o'clock at the LaSalle Stewart Center on the OSU campus.
Fans, start here. Stop in any OSU Beaver store for your chance to win Civil War tickets. Serving OSU and Beaver Nation for nearly a century, we've got the world's best selection for you to gear up this football season. Hurry in. This contest ends November 16th. Visit on campus or in downtown Portland on the corner of 6th and Alder, or at Kaiser Station just off I-5 exit 260, or online at OSUBeaverStore.com. Sign up to win Civil War tickets today. Go Beavs!
How would you rather spend your free time? Working in your yard or enjoying your yard? If you'd rather spend your free time having fun with family and friends in a beautifully landscaped yard, just call Doug Burton Landscaping. Much more than just lawn mowing, Doug Burton provides year-round complete landscaping service for your home or business. Call Doug Burton at 791-8758 or click on his link at kgal.com or kshow.net. Doug Burton Landscaping. Call 791-8758.
The Morning Update, weekday mornings on News Talk 1580, KGAL.
Valley Talk and John Gibson with me today. We're continuing to think about the election, talk about the election. Interesting, the story that John wanted to share right before we went to break is how much money has been spent on this campaign.
I didn't write it down, but I believe the total through mid-October was $79 billion. I know for a fact that they're spending $109,000 an hour, or $30.33 per second. So one of the announcers came on and said $79 billion. Now just imagine if Obama's reelected, the Senate stays the same, and the House of Representatives stay the same. We've spent $79 billion on absolutely nothing. And I thought, you know what? That is the epitome of this election process.
How's that working for you?
Now, obviously, various races are different. You got Scott Brown versus a lady named Warren is her last name. That's neck and neck. But the other thing that I heard this morning was a guy called into a radio show, and he's a Republican pollster observer. And he and a Democrat lady were there with their list of names per roster. And as people would vote, they would check their roster and check off the name if they recognized it. He reported that out of 78 voters in the first 2 hours of voting, 32 were or 38 were Republicans. The lady had registered 7 Democrats, and that came to 45, I believe. So the difference between 45 and 78, those were all independent voters. And so we don't know how they vote. You would assume a Democrat votes Democrat, Republican votes Republican. So most pollsters will tell you that the independents tend to go to the challenger because it's better to have what you might have than to have what you already have. And just like with Mr. Obama, there are so many people who have lost their jobs that I don't think basing the polls on the 2008 election, when he was just a god and people swooned when he was around. Now there's 4 years later and a whole bunch more debt and a whole lot more unemployment. So I don't think the turnout is going to be 2008. I think it's going to be more 2000, 2004. So I think Romney is going to be reelected. Mostly because I want to save my country, I feel that way, but also the numbers look that way. And remember, back in Kerry and Bush, the exit polls had Kerry way ahead, and they were already celebrating and calling Kerry Mr. President. And then when the real numbers came out after the polls closed, he lost. So the exit polls are not something to be betting. I would not bet money on an exit poll.
Remember the old classic photo? This goes back a few years, but Truman holding up the newspaper. It says Dewey wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whenever I hear exit polls, I always think of the newspaper that Truman held up saying Dewey wins.
Mm-hmm. We also have a very likely or a very good chance of having Mitt Romney win the popular vote, but having Barack Obama win the Electoral College, which would make Barack Obama the president. I will not be like the Democrats were when this happened to Bush and scream foul. I understand how the rules are, and I don't whine.
Okay, so let's talk about the stock market. Very active today.
Very active today. There's all sorts of healthcare stocks going back and forth because if Obamacare is gone, then that the reason to be in that stock is no longer there, and you're going to be stuck, and you won't be able to get out fast enough. So you have all sorts of either hedging. You can buy a put or a call on a stock. A put is you're betting that the stock is going to go down. I think it was like a put down, and somebody putting you down. A call is you betting that the stock is going to go up, and you buy the right to own that stock at that price. A call means it's going to go up. So you have a lot of option activity going on. You also have people just either getting out of a stock or getting into a stock. For instance, a stock like a Kaiser or
healthcare stock.
Yeah, healthcare stocks. Those stocks are starting to become more valued because they may exist 5 years from now. So that's what's going on.
Very, very interesting.
I can't wait to get home to get in front of the TV. It's watch The Economist. If I could just give everybody one piece of advice, watch The Economist. Don't watch the politicians.
Okay. Putting aside your political aspirations, we obviously know that you want Mitt Romney to win the office of the President of the United States. How do you think it's going to come out? If you just look at it objectively.
I don't think we're going to win the Senate. I don't think the Republicans will win the Senate. I think the guy in Missouri that made the comment about a legitimate rape, what a stupid comment. And if you even think that way, you shouldn't be running for office. I mean, that's just stupid. You got Scott Brown running against a woman in Massachusetts. Her name is Warren. She's claimed to be Native American and isn't, and yet she's still probably going to win. So you just take it like Oregon. Peter DeFazio, much to my chagrin, will win yet another term. What is it now, 25 years that he's been in the welfare system of public policy? For God's sakes, go get a real job. But he'll win re-election because of Corvallis and Eugene and the unions. I have a friend who works for a union. His boss came in and told everybody that they were mandated to vote for Obama. He went home and voted for Obama.
Interesting.
So you just can't fight stupid.
Okay, we will have election results for you tonight on KGAL Radio, and tomorrow on Valley Talk, we're going to be talking about the Veterans Parade. Patty, Louisiana will be here in studio. Don't forget KGAL K-Show. We will have coverage of the Veterans Day Parade. And also on the website, you'll be able to watch it anywhere in the world by going to kgal.com or kshow.net. Be able to watch video from the parade. Have a good day. Don't forget to vote. For John Gibson, I'm Dave Adams. Make it a good one.
Locally owned and operated, this is the very independent News Talk 1580 KGAL, Lebanon, Albany, Corvallis.